Okay. Today we're at the workshop of Phillip Cooper, and Philip's going to show us around all the goodies that he's got, and he's got a good bunch of them. So Philip, you just start right here and lead us around.
Okay. Got a chop saw as you go in the door. Something that every shop's got to have. Behind the saw you can see a beginning of clamps. Then you can never have too many clamps, they say, right?
Right.
So pipe clamps hung on the wall. I couldn't find any other place to put them. So that seemed to work. And so I hung them up there. You know, they seem to work being out of the way, and they don't interfere with the chop saw. The chop saw that I used to have had these little wings on it, and then I got rid of that and got this thing, and I don't have the sport that this thing's supposed to have, so I've got these Harbor Freight roller things, and they work really cool. I mean, you can buy some really neat stuff at Harbor Freight. So going on around, you see the beginning of storage. I got rolling shelves all over the place, and of course, you know, any horizontal surface is going to catch something. So I found out that those catch stuff pretty good. I've got all kinds of cutoffs and little pieces of wood that you can't get rid of, things you don't want to get rid of. The little stand there that's got the plywood on top is supposed to be a finishing table. And it also has storage underneath that I use to keep my Anchorage jig stuff, which if you've ever used Anchorage jig, you know, that's an addictive thing, but I've got a lot of pieces in there. But it didn't turn out to be a finishing table. It turned out to be a catch-all. But inside, the Anchorage jig stuff, I've got little shop stops, all kinds of stops and measuring pieces and, you know, that kind of thing. And then down below, more of the Anchorage jig stuff. You can't have enough, I guess. So the I-box is one of my favorites. I do a lot of box joints, and that is the thing. I've seen a lot of people make a box joint jig and do real well with it. I tried that and it didn't work. When I found that, I thought, well, now I can really do them, and they're accurate and they're nice.
And this looks like some finished work here.
So finishing table, this is stuff that's in progress being finished. The item on the right is an engraving that I did, and I backfilled it with epoxy that's had coloring put in it. Works out pretty good. This one also has the same epoxy kind of thing, but it's also got an engraving that I did. And this is a piece of wood that's inlaid into the walnut piece. And that was my first attempt at that.
Well, it came out pretty good.
It did. I was impressed. On around, I've got a pile of cherry, and you know, you run into a deal every now and then. I seem to fall into those. So my oldest stepson calls me one day and he says, "I've got this pile of cherry. Do you want it?" Sure. So I go and get it, and it's a truckload of cherry and other stuff. There's a little walnut in it. There's some apple and a few other things. And it's not all good, but it's all big. And I can get a lot of nice pieces out of it. And I've made quite a few things out of it. The wood really turned out pretty. It's got some real nice grain texture to it.
You could make a few chess sets out of it.
Just a few.
Yeah.
Somebody said, well, why don't you make pins out of it? I don't think I got enough pin kits to do that. Enough time. And then, you know, another favorite is West Penn hardwoods. You know, and I bought a bunch of their cutoffs and stuff, and I stacked them here. But I got no place else to store it. So it ended up in the middle of the floor. One of the things that I did in a former life is I worked on cars. So I've got my toolbox that I used to use at the dealership. It's full of mechanics tools, and I still use a few of them, but it collects more dust than it gets work. So I really don't want to work on cars anymore. I'd rather do wood. But I can't afford to get rid of that either. Got too much money tied up into it. More wood storage. I've got a closet in the corner that you can barely see, and inside the closet is a dust collector. Makes it less noise if it's in there. And you know, it's a sort of an inexpensive unit that makes a lot of racket, but I'm blowing the dust outside, so I don't need access to the door too much anymore. Got a planer, DeWalt planer that I've upgraded with the Helix spiral head.
Tell us about that.
From Klingsport.
You like it?
And I wish I'd done it a long time ago. I can take wood like this, bigger pieces obviously, but wood that's in, you know, this kind of wood, or even zebra wood that doesn't plane real well, and right through there, and it comes out just as smooth as it can be. And it really, it's a lot less noisy, a lot smoother cut. It comes out with little bitty fine chips instead of long pieces like the straight blades do, and the blades last long.
How about durability?
Really good. I've not turned a tooth on it yet, and I've run quite a bit of wood through it, and I can't see that it's dulled or slowed down or anything bad about it. So I'm really happy with the upgrade. Let's see, all around the wall, more storage. I've got a turning lathe there that you can barely see, but it's a Nova lathe that I got from Woodcraft when they had it on sale. And when I first got it, I just wore the thing out trying to use it, and I love turning, but I haven't been on it for a while. One of 3 lathes I have. And I got a dust collection thing behind it to try to catch some of the chips, and I found out real fast that dust collection on a lathe, there's no such thing, I don't believe. I've not been very successful at that. Got a table that I made early in my woodworking career that is after Norm Abrams' table that he did on the New Yankee Workshop. It's from the plan he had, and even did the vices and everything in it, and I've used it for years. And then when I built the other table that I've got, I set it aside and I thought, well, I'll still use it. And I do use it some, but mostly just to catch things, another horizontal surface. But it was a fun project to make, and I learned an awful lot from it, being early in my woodworking career. One of the things that I made also for my turning stuff, you can see over here, is this whole bunch of drawers that has things about turning with it, sandpaper and that kind of thing inside it, turning tools, different kind of chuck pieces. They just need a convenient place for it, and when I made that, I thought, well, this will be a really good place to store all of that, and I was amazed how much stuff I had for turning, and it all goes in there, and it's easy enough to find. So without that, I think I'd have stuff scattered everywhere. Pegboard on the wall catches a lot of things. Before my CNC machine, I used a lot of those jigs up there for making games and things, with a handheld router. And the CNC kind of made those things of no use. But it's fun to make jigs and things, and then make them actually work. But it's another place to catch a few tools, clamps and other things that I use. Just don't seem to have enough space to store everything. Got a small belt sander, came from Amazon. I got that for just sanding little bitty pieces of things, and then found out that wasn't quite enough, so got the circle spindle sander, and I use it an awfully lot, especially for making things like this, where these are mantle clocks, and I'll do some sanding in here with that, and it works awfully well for these curves. I've tried every other thing in the world, and that's the only thing I can do any decent work with. So it seems to be a necessary tool for what I do. Over in the corner, we've got the old radial arm saw, and I haven't touched that in years. The chop saw does everything I need to do. The radial arm, I'm almost to the point I want to sell it, but they're not bringing anything. So I really, as sure as I sold it, I'd need it. But it's a nice tool, and this is one of the safer ones. It's got a pull on it that keeps you from feeding too fast and all. But I really like it. But I just don't use it, and of course I've got storage all over it, so you can't really cut anything.
Well, tell us about your wood supply.
You can never have enough wood, can you?
No.
I've got wood supplied from all over the place. I found a deal on something, and I think, well, I can make something with it, so I pick it up. So I've got a whole lot of wood from, Klingspor, West Penn hardwoods, and anywhere else I can find it. So, if something strikes me to make a chessboard or something, I've probably got the wood that I need to make it with. Don't have to go searching too much. And I keep, it seems like, every little piece. I have a real hard time throwing things away. And I don't even know all the names of the woods in it. There's a lot of stuff that I'd have to be told what it is again, because I don't remember. Going this way, nice bandsaw. It has an upgrade with the roller, ball bearing guides on it that I got from Klingspor. This is from Klingspor. Got rid of a Craftsman bandsaw that was absolutely worn out. When I got this, I realized I probably didn't have a bandsaw before. This is one of the best pieces of equipment that I've added to my shop. I also have another sander here that I use quite frequently. Just all kinds of things that goes on there. You never know. Something's going to come up that you need. Something flat, and this just seems to fit the bill real well. Drill press. Everybody needs a drill press, it seems, and I use this an awfully lot as well. Build a lot of games that I sell online, and drill holes for permanent magnets and hinges and other things, and I can set this table up with a fence to repeat cuts over and over and over again. I don't have to, I can mark one, set it up, and then just start cutting. And this table here is another piece of the Anchor stuff that I really feel like is a good upgrade to that. Got a jointer that I bought at Lowe's many years ago. They don't make it anymore. You can't buy parts for it anymore. And it still has straight blades in it. I'd like to have a Helix cutter for it. But it does a good job, and it's not unhappy with it. Some guys don't like them. I really like using it, but I still have all my fingers, and I don't get too close to it. I respect the blades, and I won't take the guards off of that. Going around to the drum sander, I make a lot of chessboards, and they all go through this to get them nice and flat. This is another addition to my shop that I felt like was a necessary thing. Any kind of a nice big flat board you need seems to really work well with making the finish nice and flat, and then finish it off with a hand sander. Next thing in the center of the shop is a table saw. It's an old Craftsman that has been upgraded with Anchor jigged router tables. It's got a router lift in the right side with dust collection on it, and then the left side has the table with no router in it right now. And about the only thing that's original to this is the center saw, and it's basically just an old Craftsman saw, but with all this other stuff, it seems to be a very accurate saw. The only thing I wish it was a saw stop. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing I wish it had that feature. But other than that, I really am pleased with it, and I'm going to be disappointed when I finally wear it out. One other thing I added to it is an outfeed table, and then it's used also, as most people's, as an assembly table. So I don't ever have enough space. I have a nice big bench that I made when I first moved into this shop. This bench is made after one that I found in Massachusetts at one of the Shaker villages. Their bench is a lot bigger than this. This is a pared down version, but I like the design so well, and the joinery in it is, very early, 19th century build, and I liked it so well. I thought, well, I got to try to do that, and so there's hardly any metal in it. The drawers, move in and out real easy, and they're on hardwood runners. Dovetails here. There's a large hand-cut dovetail. That was my first hand-cut dovetail I ever did right there. It does have a metal vice screw in it, and the original plant had a wooden screw, and I wasn't up to making wooden screws at the point. So, but I've used this an awful lot. The top is made out of cherry, walnut drawer fronts, and oak for the main case. The cherry is also another one of those deals where I felt another woodworker was getting out of it. He was getting old enough he couldn't do it anymore, and had a barn full of cherry and sold that stuff for 30 cents a foot.
Wow.
So, cheap. I bought 1,000 square feet, or 1,000 board feet of it. And, carried, I've still got some of it. Trying to use it on good stuff, but this was big old, 4x4 pieces. On the table, I've got a jet lathe that I use for turning pins and other small stuff. There's another one of them hidden around here someplace. My son and I used to turn a lot of pins together, and he's kind of not into that very much anymore, and obviously I haven't used it in a while. But every now and then I get the urge to turn something or whatever, and it's handy. Next to it is a press that I made for veneers. I say veneers for inlays, more for inlays. Like the project on the other end of the shop, if I wanted to inlay instead of with epoxy with wood, using a CNC cut, I can actually cut something and put it into a cut on a piece of wood, press it in there with glue, and it'll stay, and then you cut it down, and you got a wooden inlay, which looks really good. And I've been marginally successful with that, but you know that press made the wood fit better, so that was a fairly cheap thing to make. Behind that, I've got storage cabinets all over. They're all full of knickknacks and whatever. I thought when I made them that I'd have plenty of room, and I'd have all kinds of room. I would never run out of room, and I need more cabinets. There's never enough room, it seems. I've got a computer over there that's where I listen to tunes or check email or whatever. Just can't seem to be without that in the world that I'm working in. Across the back wall, the large drawer, chest of drawers there is all pin stuff, pin kits, pin blanks, all kinds of different kits come from different places, and that was a good place to organize them. I didn't realize how many pin kits I had, so when I started spreading them out, I thought, well, I gotta organize them some way, and that's the way that I came up with it. So.
What is that, a vacuum press?
That's a vacuum press. It has not been successful yet. So I keep working with it. You know, that's an attempt, but it hasn't been successful quite yet, so I'll keep playing with it. More clamp storage. Bar clamps, those are very cheap. I bought them to do a job, and I use them occasionally other than that job, but then, you know, the glue clamps up there, I use those all the time. A lot of times they're just stacked up someplace. Today they're actually put away.
Well, you knew we were coming.
Well, you know, that's true, but you know, after a while I can't find them either. So if I put them up, I can find them again.
Phil, what is this funny machine over here?
Well, this big red whatever machine is my CNC that I made. Oddly enough, I got the urge to actually make it after seeing you make that pin router thing. That's what really pushed me over the edge that I could do this. And I kept looking at CNC machines, and I kept seeing the price, and the shop bot for something this size is better than $15,000. And I don't have $15,000, nowhere near. So I started, you know, looking at making one, and I found the company, the guy calls himself Chronos Robotics, and I found some plans through him, and it looked like an easy build, and I thought, well, I'll try it. I figured I'd give myself 6 months, and it took 6 weeks. And then, you know, I fired it up, and lo and behold, it worked. So the very first thing I ever cut on it was this piece right here, the chain, the dragon chain they call it, for all your
You had to make all of those?
I made that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's basically a hardboard, a big 4x8 sheet of hardboard, and you cut it in, you know, small squares and lay it on there, and you can cut, you know, several at a time. But I just ran the thing over and over and over with all these cables laying
you got
loose.
two of them.
You got one here and one over there. So that was the very first thing I cut with.
Okay.
Well, are you going to show us a short demo here, Philip?
I can. I have already put a piece of wood in the machine. I bolted it down with 2 screws, and this piece is supposed to turn out, it's a lid. It looks similar to this. It's a piece that's a game lid. This one's got a horse engraved in on it, and what I'm going to do on this one is put this.
Marine Corps emblem.
Marine Corps logo. So I've gone ahead and zeroed the machine and got the tool set up. I've got the material set up, so I'm ready to load the software into. That's the wrong piece. In here, so let's go find it. go there. One of the things you've got to do when you start to cut something is you've got to zero the axis. So you've got an X and a Y and a Z. Basically what you want is this bit. If you start, which I've set up start to center, I've got the center marked, and I want the bit to be right on the material. So if I go to 0, it's just there. Now for gamers, and I don't think anybody in our group is a gamer, this is an Xbox controller. This is the only piece of Xbox that I've got. I don't have the game thing or nothing, but it works on this. And so I can go stand over here and navigate. So this was something I found online. A guy says you can hack a CNC with this, and I thought, well, this looks cool, and sure enough, it works. So I found that if I want to zero something and do it by eye, I can hold on to this and get it right where I want it to be. I can also use this to start the program. So I've got a button here, I've got a green button there. Hit the green button, it starts the code, it goes down so far and tells me, make sure I've got the right tool in. It tells me here that I got to change the tool if I haven't done it already. Well, this path only has one tool. So I'm ready to go.
How many minutes does this take?
I'm not sure. 15, maybe less than that. Okay. I don't know.